Hello, everyone. It's July 4th, uh, Independence Day, Saturday. Still at home. Last week, I was able to go and cut off most of that shaggy beard and get some of the haircut, get it lowered a little bit. Still haven't shaved since I got it cut off. I don't know when I'm going to shave it. Just let it start growing back out again. But uh, not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what's going on. This July 4th is different from every other one uh, I can remember. We all are required, if we're outside, at least in this state, around, not outside, but if you're inside a public place where other people, what have you, you got to maintain your social distance, and you got to, know, wear your mask. It's funny. I on the way to the store next door. There's a credit union, and just like banks, they've always had the same thing. No, take off your hats, sunglasses, mask, this type of thing. Uh, Now they got a big sign there that says before you can come in, you got to be wearing a mask. This is totally opposite of what it's been. I was thinking about going in there and asking if I have to display my gun too when I come in, but I thought better that. Some people don't have a sense of humor and might not take that too well. But everything's going on still. The virus is on the rampage supposedly. Things are getting worse. Everything you read, everything you see and hear is all about the doom and gloom and how bad it is and how things are getting worse and they're going to get worse and all that. And you take all that with a grain of salt. At my age, I'm not super old, but I'm old enough that I've been through a few things. And like most things, it's all in perspective. And we talked about perspective all the way back on the first video I did. And you take things, it can be super bad or maybe not so bad, or you can actually turn them into being good. Uh, but like I say, the news, uh, just take that with a grain of salt. Don't let it get you down. But you still need to prepare. I mean, you need to prepare for natural disasters, storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, you name it. Out here, we got earthquakes. We had the volcano that went off Mount St. Helens back in 1980. So we had all kinds of things to worry about. If you want to worry, there's plenty of things to worry about. Well, I'm a big believer in not worrying. Worry about the things that you have control over. And one of the things you do have control over is your survival, on how well you survive, if you survive. But some things it's beyond your control, and you don't survive. But you don't worry about those. But things that are coming up that maybe some blip here or there, maybe you lose power, maybe you lose water, whatever. We'll get into some of the basics. One of the basic things you need to do is when you go to the store, just pick up an extra can of food, an extra can of beans, an extra can of whatever. Things that are not perishable, not things you got to go cook right away as soon as you get home. The things that'll last you for a year or so at least. You can do that in the grocery store. You can do that every time you go. And that's what you need to be doing. Stockpiling, even if you live in a small apartment, get an extra few things so that you have something when there's a blip, the power goes out, whatever, something goes down. All of a sudden, the water's not there because they busted a water main. They can't fix it for 3 days because of the holiday or because of parts they can't get or whatever. We've seen that around here. I'm sure you've seen it in areas that you live. So make sure you stock up a little bit on some food. You don't have to turn into a hoarder where you're supposedly called a hoarder anyhow, where you have cases and cases of this and that. But just start setting aside a little extra this, a little extra food, so that if you have to, you can fix an extra meal. You don't have to try and go to the store. Maybe the store's not open. Power goes out. The stores aren't going to be open. The ATMs are not going to be running. You can't just go get cash and then go to the store, or go to the store and use your credit card or debit card. So you want to have things extra on hand. But along with that, you got to use some sense. Maybe a lot of you don't normally use canned items. There's people out there like that eat out a lot, or they have meals that they just already fixed and fix them in the microwave, or things that you don't have to cut. You can't use a can opener to get open. Get a can opener. If you don't have one, get one. If you have one, get another one. There's an old saying that one is none and two is one. So you need at least two of some important things. Can openers are one of those. Get an extra can opener. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's only a few dollars for a halfway decent can opener. So that you know you have a can opener. So if you have to open something up, you can. Along with that, you want to store some water. Excuse me. You want to store water, maybe, pick up a package of 24 or 12, whatever, bottles of water. Have that just setting off to the side. You can always store it if you're out of room, you don't have a lot of room. Most of that stuff will slide right under your bed. You put it right under your bed so if you have some water. Last thing you want to run out of is water. Personally, I try to carry almost a case of bottled water. Since it's just the wife and I, normally in the car, I put a case of just bottled water and keep it on the floor in the back seat. So we always have water. Even if you get stuck in traffic, there's an accident, you're stuck there in the summer and you're sitting there for an hour or more, a few hours. You've got water. Along with that, in my trunk, I carry an old metal, whatever you call those cases that they used to bring milk in, but they're metal wire. I have one of those back there that I happen to acquire. And then I have a backpack. And in the backpack, I've got things like a roll of toilet paper, some matches, some candy bars. Probably getting a little stale now, but it's better than nothing. Protein bars, basic necessities. And I have more than one way to start a fire. I don't have just a box of matches. I have one of those strips you go to the sporting goods portions of the store and you'll see for camping. One of those barrel strips or whatever, where you take a knife and you strike it and it puts out sparks. One of those. I have ways, and I have a lighter or two in there. A little cigarette lighter. I don't smoke. Wife doesn't smoke. We've got a lighter. We've got several ways of starting a fire if we have to. Probably, all the years I've carried all this stuff, never have had to use it. I've got a knife back there in case I've got to cut something. Okay? Just simple things. I can get into a detailed list of what all I've got in my trunk for just survival. And it's the same thing you can keep in a backpack or in a tote, whatever you want, in your house. So that you always have to have something. If for some reason they come along and say, hey, you have to evacuate your house, it's something you can grab and take with you and throw in your car or on your bicycle or however mode of transportation you have. But it's something you can take with you and you have. You have some basic necessities. I keep a bottle of water too in there also. So if I have to grab it. Anyhow, we talk about food. What kind of food? A lot of people, I'm a YouTuber. I like to look at different YouTubes. And I don't look on a subject when I get on a subject. I don't just look at one YouTube. I look at several different people to get their opinions, whether it's growing vegetables, whether it's, how to cook a meal or whatever. But one of the things I found interesting, and it was on my first YouTube video, was I had a can. Actually, I got it here. I had a can of Spam, and there it is. I wonder why I wasn't picking it up. Okay, I had a can of Spam. Yeah, a can of Spam. And a lot of people turn their nose up at Spam. But I did a little research on that and looked at some of the videos and the history of it. And it's really interesting. Look that up sometime. And found out that, in Hawaii and some other places, some Asian countries, they love it. They use it. It's even on the menu in some restaurants in those countries. Spam. I mean, if you look at the ingredients, it pretty much hasn't changed in all the years it's been made. Uh, the price of meat right now is just going through the roof. If you can get it, it's getting in shorter supply, and it's going to be that way at least for a while. I can't predict the future and say, yeah, down the road it's going to be that way for X number of years or X number of months, but for a while it's going to be that way, and it's going to be very expensive. You might think when you go to the store and you buy some food, you're buying your supplies, your food. You might say, well, hey, I can get a can of Spam. That would make one or two meals, depending on how many of you there are. I mean, you can fry it, you can eat it cold, you can put it in a salad, you can, sandwich, you can have it with eggs. It's meat. And a lot of us love meat. Me, I'm primarily a meat and potatoes guy. Obviously, all you got to do is look at my girth, and you can tell I love food. Probably most of it's the wrong kind of food, but I love food. Along with the food, you want to make sure you get some meat. It's great to grab some more green beans. Grab a can of chili. Grab a can of tuna. The other day I got a small can of shrimp, canned shrimp, and I brought it home and drained it, rinsed it, put it in a bowl, small bowl. Got some cocktail sauce in the gut, mixed it up, and gave the wife a treat. I gave her a shrimp cocktail, my version anyhow, and she loved it. But just things like that. You need to think ahead. Buy a little of this, buy a little of that. Along with the food, you need to think about how are you going to cook a lot of this food. Say rice, you're going to need to boil water. How are you going to do that if the power's off and your stove is an electric stove? Or they've hit a gas main and you happen to have a gas stove and the gas main got busted down the road and it's taken because of a construction accident and it's going to take them a while to fix it. Okay, and you want to cook. Do you have another means of cooking? Do you have a secondary means of cooking? Think about that. I mean, you can go to the store, well, a sporting goods store. Like me, I live right next to a Weimar. They've got these little butane stoves for like $18, and they have them on sale for like $14 a time. It's a little single burner. You buy a little can of butane for a couple bucks, pop it in there, and you've got an instant stove. I've got one of those. I bought maybe a dozen cans over several months of butane, so I know I can fix a lot of meals. There are many other ways to cook also. Some things called rocket stoves. Some of you probably never heard of a rocket stove, but you use things like bricks or cement block. A few of them, you just stack them together. They're not cemented. They're not held in place by anything. You just stack them up. You make a place to put the wood in and a chimney. And the stuff, once it starts burning, the air flowing through there just turns it into like a rocket. And they get a lot of heat out of just twigs, stuff that you have in your yard, branches, old dead branches. You shove in there, and it just goes. And you put a little bracket of some sort on top, and you got a place to cook your food in an emergency or just for the fun of it. Have more than one way of cooking food, of heating water. If you have water and you don't have water, and it's a long-term emergency where the water's down, maybe you end up collecting rainwater off your roof. Well, you don't can't just drink it that way. You can't just go out and store a stream that's next door and just pick it up and then drink it. You're going to get sick. Okay, you're going to get sick. But you need a way to boil water. It's one of the first things. And when they have these emergencies, big water main breaks, boil your water for the next 48 hours before using, this type thing. So just come think about it. You need different ways to cook. And like I say, we're just talking about survival. I'm just talking about some very, very basic things. As time goes on, I'll bring you more detail about these and many other things. With that, I want to leave you with a thought. I want to read to you so that I don't mess it up. I've got a good memory, but sometimes that doesn't work too good either. But I'm a Christian. I'm proud to say it. But I just want to leave you with this out of the King James Version. It's Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work for the good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. So in this time of every doom and gloom and everybody saying this is bad and that's bad and this is going to happen and that's going to happen, keep in mind God has a purpose for you. God is there for you. All you have to do when you have times of need, when you have times of sorrow, is call out and talk to Jesus Christ. He is your Savior. He is the one and the only way to heaven. Talk to Him. Ask Him into your heart if you haven't already. With that, I want to say have a good and happy 4th of July. Thank you.